think I can stand it
Yeah.
with those bed bugs. And, well, she says, why don't you just come on down and stay at our house and you can just leave a note and say that you was you got too lonesome up here.
Geez, that's a good idea.
And that you decided to come and stay at our house. Well, you know, I hated to face him. And I guess that's what I did. Not sure, but I believe that's what I did. I think I just loaded up my clothes and I left a letter explaining that I gave some excuse. I suppose that I decided that I was kind of lonesome there or something. Anyway, I went down and I stayed at Bradley's.
Didn't you bring bed bugs along with you when you moved from one place
I
to the other?
guess not. I think she probably
People knew how to take care of it.
Yeah.
looked through the...
They didn't stay on your body during the day.
They didn't stay, they hid out in certain places in the daytime. Then when you got into bed, they
Don't they
came.
get your clothes?
No, not too
That's
much.
right.
Not too much.
They go back to their hiding place. We
in the
know.
springs and...
I never forget the virgin.
Yes. Anyway, I was so up against it, I didn't know what, I knew I couldn't stand. I think I had said something to Kempers about it, and he had said, oh, it'll be all right, or they hadn't really done much to take care of the situation. Anyway, I decided I just couldn't stand it to live that way all winter. So anyway, I went down with Maud and stayed at Bradley's, and I walked, it was almost 2 miles to school every day.
Did you have to start the fires and do all those things?
Oh yes, country school teachers, we started
The
our own
janitors.
fires.
Mother walked 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Her mother
We
walked
had,
5 miles to teach.
She used to walk 5 miles.
Oh, you know, we didn't think anything of it in those days. My goodness, 5 miles, that was long. Anyway, then in the community, there were some young people, the Griswolds. Of course, I had gone with Alva into a dance or two. Now, the Kempers didn't believe in dancing, for one thing.
Oh.
So that was one thing that I knew they frowned upon. Well, neither did my father, but then
He was a long ways off.
Then, in the community, the Griswolds had several young women who didn't go to school, didn't go to high school. They had finished the 8th grade. And they asked me, would it be all right if we came to the school and just, we'd like to study to take the teacher's examination. So you didn't even have to go to high school if you could pass the examination.
Yeah.
And just study, use the books and everything. I said, well, it'd be fine with me if you want to. And then really, I kind of welcomed it because they were my age about. So I had only 7 pupils in the school. And we had what we called a lyceum. Can't remember the name of it now, but it was just every 2 weeks, everybody who was interested in having a little program and getting together for educational purposes, supposedly, would meet at the schoolhouse. We formed a kind of a club and organization, elected a president and secretary and so on. And we had this every 2 weeks, and we decided to put on a play. So we got some playbooks and we picked out the play we wanted to put on. And quite a few young people in the community. Of course, I was in the play. And we put on this play, put it on in the schoolhouse first, and everybody thought it was so good. Why don't you take it into Nolan, that was a little town, and put it on there in the town hall. So we decided to do that. And we put this play, we had a lot of fun, and that was a good way of getting acquainted with
Sure.
young people in the
Yeah.
community. And so I had one boy, Harry Griswold, was taking his last year in grade school. And I enjoyed that winter. We had a good time, and I felt like I was doing a pretty good job of teaching. And, but the next year, my mother and father were both going to teach in Wambalee. By this time, my father had decided to quit the government service and teaching the Indian school. By this time, they needed public schools in Washita County. So they had gotten together, and the white ranchers and my father sort of instigated the movement to establish some public schools in Washita County for the white ranchers, for the white people that lived there. And they went and met with the governor and so on, and they finally got them established. He appointed my father as county superintendent, and then appointed, it was all appointed, 3 members on the school board, or was it 5? I don't remember. And this Wallace Ruggles was one of the members, the one that, where the ranch we'd stopped at. He was one of the members of the school board. So they got the public schools started there. And my father had, by the next summer, he had quit after being in the day school, he'd operated as superintendent though for 1 year while he was teaching government school. Then that next year then, he was going to teach in the Wambalee school, and my mother was going to teach.
And he was building a house for us.
Yes, he was building a house.
But we had to move into a large log house. While the house was finished, it had curtains strung across for the bedrooms. And I just hated it. Spiders were in there, and every morning Mother would get up and she'd get to school, and the school was being held in another log house down near the Episcopal Chapel. And when it rained, the water would drip down on our desks and on our papers. And that was when I first was studying, I was 7 now, geography, and the top of the map was toward the south in the room. And we were very oriented to the sun. All my life, I have to rearrange my thoughts of maps so that when I went as 14 back east, it seemed to me the train was going to the west coast. And all my life, as a result of this, I have had this fight about the directions. And I try to forget maps. Because
That's a good lesson to the teachers, isn't it?
Sure.
Yes, well, anyhow, then the house was finished before winter came. So, and we would run home at noon to get our lunch. And Mother would have, I have always liked meat, and she had a great big roast beef, that cold beef, and we'd take a knife. Well, I wanted to be first. I never got enough meat. So I got there first and took a large butcher knife, and I started cutting. And you see that line right there in my finger? I cut meat raw, and I cut myself till I could see the bone. Well, I knew I was being a bad girl. I wrapped it myself and put tape around it and didn't tell anybody. I taped that thing shut, and I never did show it, and it just kept, as it got dirtier, Mother was so busy, I kept wrapping more. I had a great big finger of adhesive tape. Yes, adhesive tape there, and when I finally, Mother said, "What happened?" I said, "I scratched my finger." And when I finally took it off, my skin was pure white. It had been, and it was all healed shut. But I have carried this memory.
You put a butterfly.
I did the modern thing. Okay, you told me to interrupt.
Yes, that's right. I'm glad you did.
And then we got into the house, which at that time was covered with tar paper. It was small, a small home. Tar paper, and my dad thought he would save heat by making low ceilings. And if you happen to be 6'6", your head would almost reach it. And the inside was covered with what they call blue building paper that you put on with a
Oh, yeah,
metal thing
nail
with
in
the
the
nail
thing
it
in the
in.
washer to hold
And
it
then
down.
later he had a man come the next year to do the plastering, and later we stuccoed the outside, but Bill's making coffee. But, so my memories then were getting very clear. Now, when did this happen about you getting your hair cut? I've got to hear this, because this was a big event. Women were, only bad women, my dad thought,
yes.
had short bobbed hair.
Sure.
All right.
When
I'll
were
tell
you coming home from?
I'll
What were
tell you.
Yeah.
Have I gotten to,
Well, you're,
I skipped it. Well, this was before. Let me see.
you were coming home from school.
From the paper.
Probably
I'm trying
spearfish.
to remember.
From the paper.
Was it the summer? Oh, it was, no, it was later. All right, I taught school. Then I decided that I ought to go back to school. But that next year, Mother and Dad were going to,
Kadoka.
we're going to teach. So, they said, trying to think.
You probably
Oh,
went
wait a
back to
minute, wait a minute.
spearfish.
They were gonna teach at Wamblee, weren't
Wait
they?
a minute.
Yeah, Barry's gonna teach us.
16, 17, 18. Did I say the first year Dad had told me? I went 2 years.
Oh, to
I went
spearfish.
2 years to Spearfish before I started teaching.
That's what I was
This
thinking.
is, yes. So I skipped a year there. I went back the second year to Spearfish before I taught, because I was 16. I was 16 when I went the first year. Then 17 when I went the next year. And then in August I would be 18. So you see, I went 2 years before I took the teacher's examination. That's right, I was a little confused there. I skipped a year. During this first year when the flu epidemic came, how was it? Yes, that was that first year. I had stopped in Kadoka, you see. On my way home, I'd caught a ride. Oh, I remember. I went home with went down on the train to Cottonwood, and with a girl that was going from Cottonwood, and I had written to this Otto Sharon. I'd been writing to him, and I said, well, I'll be coming home, and I'll go down to Cottonwood. And he had written back and said, well, I'll come and meet you. He had a car, and bring you back to Kadoka. The train came in real early. Well, so he did. He met me in Cottonwood and took me back to Kadoka. And I stayed with my girlfriend, Burl Leadham, overnight. Now, Dad, the folks didn't know I was on my way home, because this is a sudden thing up there. So I visited, we stayed overnight with Burl, and we said, oh, I just wish I guess I'll just go up here and go to school instead, to Spearfish. Taking it on myself to do it. So I went up and I enrolled in school, and Burl says, you can just stay here with us. Says, you can stay here. So, oh, no, until you find a place. Then I went to some people that I knew right near the schoolhouse, the Fowlers, and made arrangements with them to stay with them and go to school, high school in Kadoka instead of going back to Spearfish. Well, in the meantime, I had either sent word to my folks or they had found out that I was in Kadoka. So, of course, my father came right in.
Sure. What are you doing in Kadoka?
you are not going to school in Paducah. You're coming home with us. When school starts in Spearfish again, you're going back there. So of course, my plan was all mounted ahead. And I went home with him, very much disappointed, much to the disappointment of my girlfriend. Oh. So
And
I
to
went
Otto,
home.
probably.
And
He was
Otto,
probably
I guess.
disappointed
Oh,
too.
yes, uh-huh.
I was going to tell this Otto thing about Burl and I went for a car ride with her. She was kind of dating John Sears, who was a friend of Otto's. And they had a Maxwell car. Burl's father did. He was gone a lot. He was an auctioneer and he was a politician. He wasn't home, but they had this Maxwell in the garage. So she asked her mother, would it be all right if John drives the Maxwell and we go out for a little car ride in the Maxwell? And Mrs. Leadham says, well, I guess it would be all right. So we went down to her house and got the Maxwell out. But Burl and I, insisted on riding in the back, and John and Otto rode in the front. That's the way
I see,
took my
yeah.
first car ride
Sure.
with a boyfriend.
Yeah,
And so we all often laughed about that afterwards.
You didn't drive to Wambley by any chance?
No, we just drove around the country. I guess we didn't ride very long because it wasn't too satisfactory.
Sure.
The boys didn't
With
like
them,
that
with the
idea.
boys.
No.
They had a different idea.
Anyway, to get back to my father taking me home then to Wambley. And then when school started in Spearfish again, then I went back up there and finished out.
You're
Finished
trying
out
to
the
get
year
the
there.
haircut in now.
Well, I'm not ready
You're
yet.
not ready yet.
See,
I remember this.
I'm not ready yet, because the next year then I went again.
Oh, I see.
Then, that was the summer. After the second year that I took the teacher's examination, I was 17 and going to be 18 in August. Then I got a contractor to teach this school out on East Indian Creek,
Yeah.
north of Belvedere. Then when I finished up that year, I had gone to a dance or two with Alva Griswold, and then I met a fellow over there in Nolan at one of the dances from Midland. And his name was Rogers. Funny, I can't even think of his name right now, but he had finished high school and he was older. He'd been to Brookings College. That was the year that Leonard went to Brookings
Oh, I see.
to go to high school, to prep school. Well, I really thought he was pretty nice. He was good looking.
And a little bit older.
And so he was going to go to, he had been to Brookings, I guess, a couple of years to college. And he wasn't going that year, and he was going back for their homecoming. And I said, well, my brother is going to school there. And so he wanted to know his name. I said, he's going to prep school. And he says, I'll look him up. So I gave him his name, and he looked him up. Then I got one of the rare letters I ever got from my brother.
Mhm.
He wrote to me, and he says, well, your friend,
Rogers.
I think of his name,
That's okay.
escapes me, was here to see me. Quite a backslapper.
Quite a backslapper, huh?
Quite a backslapper.
Sounds like
That's all
Leonard.
he had to say.
It was enough.
So anyway, of course then when school was out, it was that spring that Levius came home on furlough from West Point. He had gotten into West Point by that time. And he came home on furlough and came up before school was out. Came up to, that was after the second year. First year I taught. Well, then that's when Dad had quit teaching in the government school, and had the new house built. And he and Mother were both going to teach in the Wombley School. Now, he was going to teach the upper grades, Mother was going to teach the lower grades. So they said, well, Ethel, we could really use some help if you want to stay home this year. And for a while anyway. And Esther and Rose were in school, and of course Leonard was going
To Brookings.
to
yeah.
Brookings. No, he was going to, he quit after the first year and was going to go to Paducah the next year.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so I said, well, that's fine. I should go back to school, but I'll wait until second semester to go. By that time, I was 19, you see. And so I stayed home and kept house for the folks with the decision to go back to Spearfish second semester. And I got a little practice in cooking, and I fixed up a big Thanksgiving dinner, and I remember I had, I don't remember. I thought I really went fancy on
We went on the
things.
kerosene stove. We went away
That's
from the
right.
range there, and we had a good
Sure, good
four-burner kerosene stove with an oven that sat up on the top. And she did her turkey
That's
in that,
right.
I suppose.
Yes. I made some special kind of stuffing for the turkey, and I watched closely. I can't remember what it was now. I think it had nuts in it. Anyway, then I was also getting clothes ready to go back to school. Ready to go back to school. It's the second semester. So, which I did. I went back to school and felt a little out of it because the ones I'd been to school with, some of them were on or way ahead and different things. Anyway, I finished up. That was the year that I went into the sorority. I was invited to join the sorority, and so I made some new friends, enjoyed it. Then I thought, well, I'll go on to summer school, try and get this schooling out the way. I'll go on to summer school, and that is Dr. Woodburn.
Oh,
Dr. Woodburn. The first year I went, Dr. Cook was the president. Then the next year, Dr. Woodburn went in. And
This was the year where you wore the puffs over your ears. We have
Yeah.
pictures, and
well,
you made a
this
raffle.
was the year, the
Raffle
summer
hair.
that I had my hair cut. I had my hair cut.
And came home.
And in summer school, I didn't stay at the dormitory. I stayed down at this place where a number of the girls were staying, who were stayed on to summer school. And that's when I met your Howard.
oh, yeah.
He had come out, he and Frank Moynihan had come out to play ball on the Spearfish team. Well,
You're watching, you were
I
down
met
watching
him.
the ball game or something.
uh,
You know, with Frank
I'm
out
trying to remember where the incident of just where I met him. My friend Alice Crouch, she had been my roommate that second year, had been in school, and we were close friends. So somehow, we met Frank and Howard and double dated, not knowing that Frank was a married man.
Oh, gee.
So, he had gone with this girl there, who was the daughter of the railroad station agent. He was an Irishman and had his eyes set
That's
on
always a good
Howard.
selection.
Sure.
No.
An Irish railroad man.
Had offered to, Howard said, you can just use my car here anytime you want to. The only thing was, he hadn't said, stipulating that he was to take his daughter with him,
With the car.
which was probably a part of the understanding,
Sure.
but Howard didn't follow that.
Yeah.
He started to take the car and take Alice, he and Frank, and take Alice and me to different things. So
Sure.
we went around during
Then
the
you got-
summer school.
Yeah.
And I got acquainted with him, and I never will forget, we went to a dance down the park,
And he could,
and he was, of course, from a little different culture. He felt
A little
the girl he took to the dance was supposed to dance with him all the time to dance. Well, I didn't understand that. That wasn't according to my culture.
Yeah.
We just danced with whoever came and asked us to dance, with the people we knew. So I was dancing with other guys too, and he kind of got up in the air about that. It was a little difficulty.
Yeah.
And of course, at that time, one of the popular was, oh, he came and said, well, let's go. He told me off
Oh, yeah.
about it. And I was stubborn enough too. I wasn't supposed to dance with anybody but him. And
Taking a
well, I
liking
said,
to him.
either you go home with me or else I'm going home. You can find a way to get me. So that's what the way it turned out that evening.
Were you still with the puffs on your ears then? Or had you had the haircut then?
Let's see. I don't remember whether I had my haircut then or not. I think I did, yes. I think I had my haircut. And I stayed.
It's
And,
about 1922, wasn't it? Or what was it?
No.
And he went home. I don't remember about Alice. I believe she didn't go to summer school. She lived in Deadwood. So Frank had somebody else, I guess. Anyway, one of the popular songs then was "Somebody Stole My Gal." And so this old boyfriend of mine that I hadn't gone with.
This is Alpha Griswold then?
No, this was somebody from Wyoming, Lou Charette.
Well, my goodness.
And I had gone with him when I was there before, but I hadn't, even after I came back at all, I hadn't done any dating that next semester. Well, I had a little, but nobody special. And so he was at the dance. I had danced with him. I said, well, I guess I'm left stranded here. He says, well, I'll take you home. So he took me home. And after I don't know how it happened, but Howard and Frank came up the street in front of this house where we lived, singing this song, just casually, and Frank, he was quite a singer.
Yeah.
And they were singing, "Somebody stole my gal." They were walking up the street singing that.
That would be like you, wouldn't it? You can tell a story of you.
Well, anyway, that was just a little... Anyway, I don't remember how it happened. We got back together again.
He couldn't put up with that.
And when summer school was over, then I went home and we corresponded. That's when I went home with my had my hair cut.
Oh, yeah.
And of course I curled it with a curling iron that hung down in the middle of a kerosene lamp.
And in the glass chimney.
Yeah.
I well remember watching her. Her
Anyway,
beautiful brown hair. she
I
had.
went home. I had my hat on. Everybody wore a hat in those days if you were going to travel,
Sure.
especially. Came home with my things, and Mother said, we visited everybody excited, we were home. Mother said, well, aren't you going to take your hat off and make yourself at home? Aren't you going to stay? I said, oh yes. So I took my hat off. Mother said, oh, Ethel, you bobbed your hair.
Bobbed
the hair. Oh, that
You
would be.
bobbed your hair.
Yeah.
What will your father say? And oh, he'll call you a flapper. Well, after a while, Papa came home. He didn't say much. He kind of rolled with the punches at times. And, oh, I see you cut your hair, or something of that sort, and didn't make any ado about it at all. So, then I had contracted to teach in the same school again. out in East Indian Creek. And Mother said, of course, the folks knew I had been going to dances up there. And of course, Papa didn't approve of that at all.
And don't you like dancing at all?
No.
Oh, he didn't believe in it.
I don't
He did not believe in
I haven't
dancing or
heard.
playing cards.
Oh, yeah.
He was brought up in a very strict home.
Didn't he like playing cards?
No.
Oh, no.
He never
would-
played that.
No,
before.
no,
No, he never played. We did get him to play clinch once in a while.
no. Bunko and Flint.
Bunko and clinch, but he didn't believe in playing cards.
What did the school board think of you going to dancing, after dancing?
That was all right.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Well, I don't know about Mr. Kemper. I didn't really
Yeah,
check into that.
Yeah.
He didn't
But there
care.
were other members on the school board.
Well, you could tell him to go attend his bed bug if he had company.
No, I was never, they didn't seem to
Yeah.
like me. They
Sure.
seemed to approve of what I did
Yeah.
very much. And so Mother thought, well, why don't you, instead of staying at Bradley's, why don't you, isn't there another place you can stay? Well, I thought the Harrises, maybe I should write to them. And they were an old couple, but their children were all gone. And so I wrote to the Harrises to see if I could board and room with them. They were right near the schoolhouse, about a half a mile away. And so she wrote back and said, well, yes, she would be glad to board for me. They didn't have any